Next up, we have Oliver Kitty, Managing Director of Legend Mining.
Thanks, Brooke. Thanks to the Paydirt team. I need to cut that bio down. That's a little bit long. Today, we've obviously heard a lot on the thematic about the nickel price. Obviously, it's quite suppressed in the current environment. It's not reflective of the long-term forecasts. A bit of a change of tact, really, from this presentation to others. We're solely an exploration company, purely exploration focused. This presentation is about the science behind finding these nickel deposits, and I think, as Andrew touched on, our share prices has copped a clip like most in the room. It's a good time to buy, and I hope I give you a reason to buy post this. Our standard disclaimer will be available on our website. I will be making some forward-looking statements. If we have a look at our corporate overview at Legend, we've got a market cap of circa 67 million at 2.3 cents as we sit today. Obviously, that's down a bit on what it should be. If you look at, we've got a resource which I'll talk to today, which underpins that market cap. We're actually going around it very, very cheap given our cash. We are very strong in the Treasury Department. We've got 15.5 mil as of the end of the June quarter. Importantly, no debt. Our board of directors, we've had a bit of a reshuffle at Legend. Mark Wilson has moved to chair, myself to MD. Hilary McDonald came on board last year. She's in-house counsel at Northern Star, co-sec at Northern Star. Look, she's a really good get for the company. Tony Walsh is obviously well known to most in the room. If we look at our shareholder structure, Mark Creasy being our largest shareholder, IGO at number 2, also joint venture partners and major explorers in the Fraser Range, which is our project. I think the other two on there, Mark Wilson, obviously exec chair, and Dave Bailey, high net worth here in Perth. The big thing about this, all these shareholders have bought on market, including the directors, and look, we've obviously seen some value given the current share price and the opportunity to top up. So inside the last 9 months, you've seen Mark Wilson, Hilary and myself all top up. So the investment highlights for Legend, we're a future-facing commodities explorer, specifically targeting these nickel, copper, cobalt deposits in the Fraser Range. We're a dedicated team of explorers, really letting science drive the exploration, and I'll talk to that in this presentation. The enviable location is the Fraser Range, where we've assembled nearly 3,000 square k's of prospective tenure. We have the mineral resource there at Mawson, which was released in February this year. I'll expand on that today. We've got a pipeline of targets, a large amount of the presentation spent on octagonal, which we've been focused on currently. And like I said, we're very well funded, and importantly, I always like to touch on this point, 90 cents in the dollar at Legend goes in the ground. We always pride ourselves in continuing and developing and maintaining our stakeholder relationships at Legend. Our policies can be found on our website. So why nickel? We're obviously going to see various iterations of this slide over today, but as you can see there, the demand is set to double. And we are looking at a shift from a stainless steel market into dominantly a stainless steel offset with EV. What does that mean? We need a lot more nickel. We can see by forecast today that we're going to be in deficit from circa 2028. We need a lot more mines to offset that demand. So where are these mines going to come from? I put this slide in, and look, this is a bit of a homage to Victor from Panoramic. I quite enjoy his take on the nickel throne, and I'm not going to get involved in who's going to be sitting in the nickel throne. But one thing we can all agree on is that winter is coming with respect to the looming nickel supply deficit. And this graph that I put together from S&P is actually quite damning. We need a lot more nickel discoveries, and this is where Legend comes into the equation. You can see there nickel discoveries, major nickel discoveries from 1990 through to the end of 2022. It's basically dropped off a cliff since 2010-11. You can see there the budget spend has started to increase, but the discoveries are yet to come. It's well and good saying, I'm going to go out as a company and explore for nickel. Good nickel ground is rare as hen's teeth. At Legend, we've assembled some of the best ground, we believe, some of the most underexplored nickel ground in the world. This nickel ground sits in the Rockford project in the Fraser Range, around 150 k's north of Nova. It's 100% in the Fraser zone, which is this Proterozoic accretion. We're primarily targeting these nickel, copper, cobalt deposits like I touched on. The thing that I always like to touch on that is actually not, can't be sold enough is actually the infrastructure here in the Fraser Range. You can see there on screen, the Trans-Australia Railroad runs right through the southern portion of our property. So that's excellent infrastructure for product in, product out for a developing situation. The project itself, like I touched on, is just under 3,000 square k's of prospective tenure in what we believe is one of the most underexplored nickel belts in the world. It's dominantly been underexplored because it's undercover. The Legend team, obviously working in the Fraser Range now for 7.5, coming up 8 years, has built up this treasure trove of data which allows us to specifically target these mineralised intrusions, and we're very good at finding them. There's clearly potential for more ore bodies to be found. Mawson is an example of that, in addition to Silverknight and Nova. Octagonal, which I'll talk to shortly, we believe is a real sleeper and potentially the next ore body in the Fraser Range. We've developed a pipeline of targets through this scientific-driven methodology. Methodology, there we go, slow down. Magnus is one that I'll touch on at the end. That's in addition to which we believe could be the next Octagonal, Nova, Silverknight, Mawson. Octagonal is this intrusion which sits about 150 kilometres north of Nova and Silverknight. Specifically, it sits on this red structure, which is the same structure which hosts Nova and Silverknight, and Magnus, which is another intrusion to the north. You can see from the aeromagnetics there, we're dealing with a very, very similar aeromagnetic feature to Nova. Same mineralisation, same host structure, same fold pattern, same host rocks. The basal contact hasn't been tested up until now. That's because the octagonal intrusion is about twice as thick as the Nova intrusion. The drilling this year was 4 holes so far put into octagonal to test that basal contact. We've confirmed that the fertile intrusion extends at depth, and most importantly, it increases sulphide towards the basal contact. We've also encountered these higher MgO intrusions, which are critical to these fertile nickel systems. We've also intersected the highest nickel tenor to date, which is obviously really important for delineating or accumulating one of these nickel deposits. Really importantly is the outstanding geological reconciliation between the drilling and the seismic. We first looked at how do we explore octagonal at depth below 600 metres without drilling holes wildly. It's all about creating targets. How do you create these targets? How do you define these targets? We deployed 3D seismic, so 24 square kilometres of 3D seismic, which allowed us to get architecture of this intrusion and therefore design these drill holes. As part of this drilling, we've identified what we believe is the primary structure which this octagonal intrusion has exploited, which is this metaconglomerate. That's a key piece of architecture, as I'll talk to in the next slide, as this is the pathway where the octagonal intrusion has come in. Also, we've got strong evidence of not just intrusions, but mineralised intrusions outside the octagonal intrusion, which really is the holy grail. This is, you get onto mineralisation inside the main intrusion, you then start to look for satellite deposits outside. As part of the drilling, we conducted downhole EM. We've obviously seen some good sulphide, specifically in hole 4, and we've got downhole EM conductors associated with the mineralisation. But I think the key takeaway point from the drilling to date at octagonal, just 4 holes, 2 have intersected the basal contact, is we've got increasing confidence in nickel copper sulphide accumulations. Target area C, where there's smoke. You can see there a few of the pictures of some of the sulphide there. You can see we've got all the right ingredients with respect to a fertile nickel system. We've got really high tenor nickel copper sulfide. We've got beautiful carbonate digestion. This intrusion's come into this carbonate unit and chewed it up and started to drop out the sulfide. That's important because that's the setting where Nova's deposited into this carbonate horizon. And on screen there you can see the conductors associated with the sulfide that we've seen, which are those red marks on the drill trace. That's a picture of the conglomerate. It'll only mean something to the geologists, but the geologists in the know that that's critically important if you're looking for these Nova-style ore bodies. So what are the ingredients for a Nova nickel style deposit? Now, I did see Steve Rennick, there he is in the room, so he's the author of this, so it's good to see Steve here at his time at IGO. What we're super encouraged about from the holes that we've drilled at Octagonal to date is we're seeing an identical sequence to what they see at Nova. Identical hanging wall, we're seeing the intrusion, albeit thicker, which we knew it would be at Octagonal. We've identified this favourable horizon, which this meta-conglomerate horizon, where this intrusion has come in. What this is telling us is the octagonal intrusion sits on that main regional structure, is at the same stratigraphic level as Nova. We're seeing the right rocks, they're fertile. Now it's a matter of delineating where the needle is within this haystack. So what next? We've just made an announcement yesterday that we've deployed this very high-powered fixed-loop EM survey across Octagonal. We were encouraged to do this large survey, 2K by 1K loops, because we've really seen next to no false conductors in the drilling to date, i.e. no graphite, as we saw in other parts of the Fraser Range. The forward modelling that we've completed from the downhole and the data to date suggests that it's so quiet we should be able to see down to 1,000 metres plus, so it's excellent conditions for surface EM. The survey is underway as of yesterday. These targets that come from the EM will be combined with the seismic, and we'll roll the drill rig into those once they've been ranked. Just touching on Mawson quickly, obviously Mawson was discovered in late 2020, 2019. February this year, we put out the maiden mineral resource for Mawson, just over 28,000 tonne of metal. To put that in terms of production, that's a year's worth of production for Nova Bollinger. The mineralisation itself is shallow, starts at 65 metres down to 300 metres, excellent metallurgy, no arsenic, no deleterious elements, high Fe-MgO ratio, so it's a brilliant blending agent for the BHPs of the world. Importantly, the mineralisation remains open, and that's where we're using this seismic to chase it down to the depths below 600 metres. Chasing it down below those depths obviously requires some pretty pinpoint accuracy. That's where we've deployed the 3D seismic. We're now reprocessing that seismic. We've also incorporated some machine learning through Sensor, which we're just about to get underway, which is using all the data that we've taken to date from Mawson and applying some machine learning about fingerprinting Mawson at depths and the trends at depth. So it's a very much watch this space. Just in summary, to touch on the regional prospectivity, you can see there we've got a pipeline of targets at Rockford across our 3,000 square Ks. We're not just about Mawson, we're not just about Octagonal. We're sitting on this treasure trove of data. We know how to find these mineralised intrusions, and we work these up to get to the stage of hopefully resource definition. So finally, I'll just touch on the exploration schedule. As you can see there, we've got plenty going on, pretty much like the duck on the water. It doesn't look like we're doing a lot from a market perspective, but once you drill holes, you've got all this data coming in. We've got the reprocessing and the associated modelling occurring at Mawson. On the back of that, we've got target generation. From there, we've got obviously the fixed loop, large survey there at Octagonal. We'll reconcile that with the seismic for additional drill targets at Octagonal. And regionally, we continue with our building up of a pipeline of targets to hopefully delineate the next Nova Bollinger. So that is it in summary. Come and have a chat to us at the booth if you want some more detail on that very quick overview of the legend story in the Fraser Range. Thank you.